If you're in your 40s, this is a really important decade, and it's different to your 20s and 30s. Your 40s are when you sit down and have a look at what you've built so far, things like where your career's heading and how to refine your overall picture. So making deliberate trade-offs by choosing to do so, not just by letting it happen or just by guessing. You've probably noticed that putting in a bit more effort these days as well doesn't necessarily shift things the way it once did. And this is where having a strategy in place for you does. Let's go through the key focus areas the same way we did in my last video that focused on your 30s. My name is Melanie Davies. I'm a licensed independent financial advisor. Everything I share is general information only. It's not personal financial advice. So always get advice specific to your situation. My financial services guide below. Let's start off with looking at investing versus debt repayment with an actual strategy in place. One of the biggest questions I'm asked all the time about being in your 40s is, should I be putting everything into my mortgage or should I be investing more? And the answer is it depends, but not emotionally, strategically. Have a think about what goes into your mortgage, what gets invested and why. For this one, risk tolerance matters more now than what it did in your 30s because your time horizon is shorter, so mistakes are harder to recover from. But that doesn't mean that you want to avoid risk completely. I'll link to my video which goes through all of this, explaining low risk versus high risk investing, which is understanding the trade-off between each of them and learning about the expected earning rates and how you compare this to what you're paying on your debt. Once you understand that comparison, decisions stop feeling emotional and they start to really feel strategic. There's no one universal answer here. Everyone's going to be different with this one, but not understanding the trade-off can be costly. By your 40s, your mortgage is still on autopilot, but it's now that it needs some finessing. It's worth having a look at the interest rate that you're paying and reviewing that regularly, and refinancing when it makes sense. Even small interest rate differences compound over time, and try to pay into your mortgage more than what you actually need to. Moving on to super. Super in your 40s is no longer passive. This is where salary sacrifice or personal contributions can really start to make a real difference. Your investment mix now should also reflect your goals, and you need to be aware of the tax advantages inside your super fund. Try not leave your supers tend to forget. A few smart changes now in your 40s can really shift your retirement income. So log in, have a look around, get familiar with your super fund and get advice here with this one. Make sure it fits into your circumstances. Now moving on to kids. If you've got kids by now, education and funding starts to become very real. And there are trade-offs that you need to think about between putting money into education. Is it going into your retirement? Is it going into your lifestyle? Knowing what you're prioritising and what you're consciously choosing to do is where you want to get to, not trying to leave it to chance or trying to do everything at once. And the last, most important one to really think about is asset and income protection. So in your 40s, your income is one of the most valuable assets that you've got, along with your home, but you're likely supporting more people and carrying bigger financial commitments. So it's really the right time to make sure that your risk exposure is managed well. Enough cover to protect you and your family, your assets and your future without overdoing it. Make sure you're definitely not underprotected here either. Get advice, speak to a professional and get some help. Your 40s are the decade where strategy matters much more than speed, and clarity matters more than it being really complex. For most people, you don't necessarily need to do more. You're working really hard and you're focusing on your family and your career, or your family and your partner's career. So from there, you just need to do the right things, take a big picture view and do things in the right order. So the reframe that you need for your 40s, it's time to think about alignment between your income, your goals and your time horizon. In your 40s, progress comes from aligning your money with your priorities. The right structures around this decade start to create the momentum, and having the momentum is what leads to more options in the future. This decade is for strategy, putting some plans in place and making some smart choices. And then your 50s are for greater certainty and your future is set up for flexibility. Financial progress is going to look different at every age, and the key is knowing what actually matters for where you are right now. If you can see yourself getting on track, hit save and come back as you work through each step, one new habit at a time. And while you're there, check out the rest of the Financial Foundation series by life stage for the big picture view of how your financial progress shifts over time. You'll begin to see a common theme. Remember, it's important to seek advice from a qualified professional before you make any changes to make sure they're right for your situation. And if you want more practical, realistic advice for real life, subscribe below and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for joining me.